After the decisive victory of Donald Trump, President Joe Biden's message to his supporters is, setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable.
Must try harder. Hungary's Commissioner designate fails to get green light at hearing and is given new written questions.
Russia kills at least 4, as others might still be trapped under the rubble, according to officials in a daytime attack on Zaporizhzhia.
The US President Joe Biden delivered remarks to the nation on Thursday, his first appearance on camera following Donald Trump's decisive victory over Kamala Harris. Speaking in the White House Rose Garden, Biden said, "Defeat does not mean we are defeated," and he urged his supporters to keep the faith and keep up the fight.
You can't love your country only when you win. I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you. Don't forget all that we accomplished. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable.
The president also hailed the accomplishments during his term and stressed that the legislations that were passed are going to have their effects in the near future. Overall, Biden asked his supporters to be patient and continue to believe in the American experiment.
A defeat. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going, and above all, we need to keep the faith.
The Biden administration will continue for another 74 days until President-elect Donald Trump sworn into the White House.
Calls are mounting for German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to hold his vote of confidence as early as next week that would pave the way for snap German elections. The coalition broke down just hours after US President Donald Trump was elected. EU policy expert Dr. Tu Nguyen says the breakup was bound to happen.
Domestically, the breakup of the coalition was inevitable. It's already days before the signs were there, and the differences and conflicts between the three coalition partners were just too big to overcome. Internationally and from a European perspective, the timing is very unfortunate. As you said, just hours before the election of Trump as US president, meaning at a time where European leadership, but also leadership in the European Union, is needed more than ever. And the collapse of the German government, of course, leaves a very big gap.
What could the repercussions be for the European Union, and what can we expect to happen next for Europe's strongest economy?
In a positive scenario, we will now have new elections in Germany next spring, and after that, hopefully, a stable government again that is willing to take leadership in Europe. So that is the hopeful scenario, that this lack of leadership coming from Germany is only a temporary one, that will be filled up again by summer next year, and that it will not come to a falling apart of the European Union. But of course, there's still a need now to ensure that there is a common European response to the elections in the US.
Is there a danger for the European Union, and how could this affect member states?
I think one worry that I have is that the election of President Trump will give backwind to leaders like Viktor Orban and Giorgia Meloni and push a vision of the European Union that is maybe more pro-Russian or less green, or even harder on migration, because they feel empowered by the results of the US elections, and at the same time there is no counter force in the European Council and amongst the other member states that can counter their vision at this moment in time.
Liv Stroud in Berlin for Euronews.
The Hungarian Commissioner designate Oliver Várhelyi did not pass his first hearing at the European Parliament. He failed to convince the Social Democrat, Green and Liberal lawmakers. But rather than having to sit through another hearing, he will be tested with new written questions. Among other issues, the Commissioner designate for Health and Animal Welfare was asked to take a position on abortion, but he evaded the question.
Abortion is a question that is more of a constitutional and human rights question than a medical question. And not only that, but it is also more of a question for member states. There is no EU competence when it comes to abortion.
But the sharpest attacks on the candidate came in relation to the policies of the Orban government. As a member of the governing party, many MEPs do not trust him. And he was reminded that he once called the whole parliament idiots, for which he later apologized.
Pas d'un commissaire qui traite les eurodéputés d'idiots, comme vous l'avez fait, peut-être car vous n'avez pas supporté que le Parlement européen qualifie la Hongrie d'autocratie électorale, car votre régime s'assoit sur l'indépendance de la justice et bafoue les libertés publiques. La possibilité même de votre nomination doit résonner comme une alarme dans toute l'Europe, plus encore après vos félicitations matinales à Donald Trump. Ma question est simple. Comptez-vous gérer la santé des femmes et le bien-être animal comme Viktor Orban gère les droits de l'homme en Hongrie?
Oliver Varhelyi has until Monday to answer the written questions, and his candidacy will then be decided by the committees for agriculture and for the environment. So far, the Hungarian candidate is the only one who did not receive the green light from the committee after his hearing.
El recién elegido presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, es el protagonista en este estadio, el Puskás Arena de Budapest. Aquí, en Hungría, es donde se están reuniendo los líderes de la comunidad política europea. Y la decepción es mayoritaria, aunque hay voluntad de cooperar y de seguir trabajando juntos, como ha dicho la presidenta de la Comisión Europea, Ursula von der Leyen. También hay notas discordantes, como las del anfitrión, Viktor Orban, o la del albanés Edi Rama, que cree que esta victoria de Trump no es necesariamente mala para Europa. Quien sí le ha mandado un mensaje claro a Trump ha sido el secretario general de la OTAN, Mark Rutte. Rutte ha alabado el primer mandato de Trump y el papel que hizo por la OTAN, pero le ha recordado que el despliegue de tropas de Corea del Norte en Rusia también es peligroso para Estados Unidos. Muchos líderes han hablado también de la crisis de gobierno que está atravesando Alemania. Y el mensaje es claro. Europa necesita una Alemania fuerte. Aida Sánchez Alonso, Euronews, Budapest.
With Trump's re-election in the US, fears about a shift in the Ukraine war have started to emerge. While Trump's exact policy is unclear, he has previously said that as president he would settle the war within 24 hours, raising fears that he may reduce or cut off aid. In Kyiv, analysts and policy experts are discussing the likely impact.
Well, Trump is an incredibly unpredictable politician, maybe the most unpredictable politician who's ever been in the White House, and so it's always a bit of a guessing game. I think what we can say is that fundamentally he's inclined to make a deal with Putin. You know, Trump's worldview is very much about the top players sitting down together at the table, you know, and making the deals and deciding everything amongst themselves.
The Trump campaign suggested a deal to end the war could include blocking Ukraine's NATO and EU access, but optimism remains in Kyiv.
We will see that President Trump will surprise us. We're not exactly sure yet what that surprise will be, but I think we are looking forward. We're looking forward to working together with President Trump, with the new administration, with the transition team.
Even if Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin come to an agreement to end the war in Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky needs to agree to this.
For many of Kyiv's residents, the election results have only brought mixed feelings.
The fact that he don't see it as an actual fight, but just as a misunderstanding between both the presidents, I'm really scared about what type of decision he can make.
Maybe he can help us to solve this more quickly, and this solution will benefit us. I hope so.
Facing an uncertain fate, Ukraine's president, who was amongst the first to congratulate Trump, has appealed to the US president-elect's commitment to peace through strength. At least 4 people have been killed in multiple Russian-guided aerial bombs on Zaporizhzhia, whilst 33 others have been injured. An oncology center and some houses were damaged. Regional Governor Ivan Fedorov said on Telegram that Russia had launched 6 bombs at the city, with more people likely trapped under the rubble. Meanwhile, an overnight drone attack in Odessa injured 1 man and damaged around 40 apartments. Dozens more targeted Kyiv in an 8-hour night-time attack, injuring at least 2 people, according to authorities on Thursday. adding that Ukrainian air defenses neutralized 36 drones, but falling debris damaged civilian infrastructure, including igniting a fire on an apartment block. Late on Wednesday, the Russian army attacked the residential area of a district in Kherson, killing one man.
2024 will be the hottest year on record. According to the European Climate Service, this year's global average temperatures have been 0.71 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 average. Copernicus Climate Change Service said this year has been 0.16 degrees Celsius warmer than last year.
Our record goes back to 1940. But it's quite possible that this record stands on a much longer time series. And 2024 not only will be likely with the warmest on record, but will also be the first calendar year above the psychologically important threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial.
Limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is one of the main goals of the Paris Agreement. Though a year-long breach doesn't mean this long-term target has been missed, but experts warn the world is getting dangerously close.
Look back at the ozone hole, we managed to get together as a global community and find a solution. Now the problem is incredibly more complex, has to do with our economic model, has to do with our way of using resources. And inevitably, this means much more complex conversation.
Scientists say the latest data should be a cause for concern ahead of next week's COP29 UN climate conference.